Hello there, and welcome to Chita Diaries. Welcome to the finale of this month's Chita Chats. This month, I was talking about mental health, or just focusing on videos that are for mental health awareness. I've come to the finale. So if you're new to my channel, I've done like a whole series this year of introspective videos. And yeah, this month I had a theme, and that was this month's theme. Today is the finale. These tend to belong. They aren't structured. Like I was actually thinking, you know, like before I sat down, I was like, for the work series, my finale was dealing with like getting through loss while in the workplace. And my money chat, I talk about black tax. This month I'm doing my finale with on the topic basically learning to forgive, learning to forgive and our expectations when it comes to closure, because a lot of people want to get closure in order to forgive. And all my finales are always like big topics, sensitive ones that are close to me. So I just wing it like there's pretty much no structure. I'm just going to say what will be on my chest. So yeah, welcome to today's video. Hope you've been well, and it's still hot. It's very, very hot. I can barely think right now. I'm just pushing through it. And we're in September. Like, if you're Zambia, like, we're in September. Okay, as I'm filming this, it's September. Like, are we ready for October? Like, are we really ready for October? And then if you are in Zambia, like, the heat in my country is not the cute type of heat that, you'd want to experience on a vacation and the like my sister and I were actually laughing and complaining about how, like, Zambian heat is that disrespectful type of heat that will have you, like to have you like feeling this fear for your life. Like, am I going to get dehydrated to death type of vibe? Like, it's not the nice, fun type that has you glowing and feeling nice and you want to go out and wear cute clothes. No, this is a type that has you running into buildings with air cons. But yes, it's super hot today. But I'm going to power through it. Now, today's topic. Today's topic, learning to forgive and my expectations with closure. If you're someone who's watching this, you might be able to relate to this. And a lot of us want closure. Like, we want somebody to say sorry, like, simply put. If we feel wronged, we want somebody like, that's the only way we'll ever get over something. We want somebody to show remorse. Like, we want somebody, you know, to let us know that we've, or just validate everything that we felt, everything, that we thought about, in order for us to move on from something that, has caused us pain or anguish or whatever. So there's so many ways in which people may have felt wrong. I'm not going to be comprehensive and think of a whole bunch of scenarios, but for somebody my age, I wanted to talk about something that I find quite common amongst people in my age group or older, or even just slightly younger, my friend groups, things that we've discussed, things that we've gone through. I'm African, if you're new, like, if you're watching me for the first time. I'm African, I'm Zambian. So, like, I'm going to speak from my own personal perspective, as well as referencing my country, Zambia, and just the overall continent, and just Africans. I feel like even though Africans fight people on the internet saying Africa is not a country, it's a continent, most of us will share stories online and we all laugh saying, like, if you're African, like, you pretty much grew up in the same household. So, my generation, because I'm 31, by the way, I was born in 1992. My generation, people around my age, especially those who grew up in working to middle class families, well, that's who, like, I've hung around with. I don't know how the upper class live, but a lot of us have similar stories to tell, similar upbringings, where we felt a lot of pressure from our parents and our guardians. There's always this push. We always laugh about how strict our parents and guardians were. They wanted us to be the best in terms of school. And then once we got older, like, those who are somewhat liberal, and I'd always joke about how, like, I don't, yes, like, my dad might be strict and everything, but if one of us woke up and said, like, we want to be a DJ, like, I don't think Okay, you know what? Like I remembered some funny story with my sisters about. Anyways, I won't get into that. But if you woke up and told like our dad, like, oh, guess what? I'm going to be a DJ. As long as we could prove that we would be the best DJ in this country, he would be like, go ahead and do it, and I'll support you. And like he would be proud of us type of thing. And I feel like some people can relate to that. It's like fine, do whatever you want, but be the best at it, make a lot of money, be successful. Like most of us are not allowed to just have a normal life. There's always this push from a very, very young age to be the best that you can be. Now that push sometimes was not always healthy. A lot of us have, you know, quote unquote trauma. And then it may not even be school. Of course, there's just this tough love that some of us grew up with. A lot of us had emotionally stunted parents where like it was like for some people like they've never been hugged by their African dad. Their parents have never said I love you to them. Like that's not something that they can relate to. So there's all of this heaviness where we end up blaming them, saying, I'm the way I am. Like, I don't know how to relate to people because of the way I was treated, the way I was raised. There's a lot that goes through people's minds and the discussions that we've had. Now, I'm not going to, when I'm talking about forgiveness, I need to give this big disclaimer. I am going to refer to parents who actually tried it, parents who actually love their children. Okay, I know sometimes, like they can be really tough. Like there've been certain scenarios where like they were doing too much, but I'm not going to reference people who did things where like, somebody should have called the police on them. No, I'm not somebody who's going to say, like learn to forgive like it's that easy. Like because I know it's not easy. Like that's something you need to seek like professional help with. Like in fact, even just, me and what I'm going to talk about, when it comes to just regular stuff that most of us have gone through, even that, requires therapy. But like the deep, 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 deep stuff where it was extremely abusive, where like somebody should have called the police, like like some of your parents and guardians need to be in jail. Like no, like I'm not referring to that. I'm referring to just surface level stereotypical African parent guardian stuff here. Okay. Let's just make that, very, very clear before I proceed. So I went through like a whole phase where, oh, and I also come from like a very big family. So I have older siblings, I have younger siblings, and there's me. I'm a middle child, very, very needy. And of course, I went through a phase where, like I was told I needed to get very, very, very good grades. If it's for me, like I grew up in a household where like we had to read books. Like watching TV was highly like yes, I grew up watching TV, but it wasn't as much as my peers. Like I couldn't play, I couldn't do what some of my friends were doing because I came from a household where like you needed to read books, like you needed to study, and it was always being pushed or think of like I'm talking about me being a 10-year-old and someone telling me like what are you doing during your like school holiday and the like, and that was like a big thing for me. I remember laughing about this with my brothers recently of how because like I have like niece like small nieces and nephews who are on school holidays. Like I was looking at them like having a good time, playing football outside, watching cartoons and the like. And I would laugh saying when it was us growing up, like literally like the Friday when you close schools, in the evening after supper, like I could be sat down and told, "What's your program? Like, how many weeks do you have off of school? Like, I want to see you reading. I want to see you studying. I like there would be structure during this school holiday because I don't want you messing around or just playing and being willing. So I did feel like, oh, like of course I would eventually play and the like, but I didn't play as much as my peers. Worse off in my teen years, like my teenage friends were living lives. Okay, they were living lives, doing the most, and I always felt like I was stuck at home. I was a caged monkey, and once you got like I remember laughing, saying yes. Like I know, like my parents really pushed me. Okay, let me not say my parents plural because it was mostly my dad. Like my dad really really pushed me to do the absolute most, and my friends who got to party and live lives, like we still got the same grades. They went on to university. They got their degrees. They got their degrees while living life. And I did hold a certain level of resentment. In fact, I dropped out of college. That's like a whole other video that I did once upon a time. So yeah, like I won't drag this on. I was a college dropout. Found I was so lucky I found a good job, and then later on I went back to school, and I do okay by myself. But there was just like a lot going on, and then that's like on the aspect of, you know, make sure like you're the best that you can be, etc. Whatnot. Sometimes it gets very, very deep. And now, like, I'll speak in general terms, not just me specifically. I know I've heard from people where it's gotten really, really bad, where you feel like devalued if you don't get straight A's. Like you are made to feel like less of a like less of a human being, like less important if you don't bring in good grades. Like if you're someone who gets C's or D's, you're looked upon like, you know, like a failure. Like it's a very, very common thing that we all laugh about, whether you're African, and even like a lot of Asian families or Asian kids can relate to that. So there's sometimes it has gone deeper where you feel really, really bad, and then you move on, get your own life. Or maybe you might have gone through college, schooling, and the like. You get good grades, but then you're unemployed for a very, very long time. And then you move into this new phase of your life where you're unemployed, like you're not bringing in any money. And again, African families, all my days, like they love a relative with money. Like you could be again, like you could have any job in the world, but if you're successful at it and you're bringing in money, you will be respected. So some people have also gone through a situation where you know what it's like to be the one who's unemployed or the one who's poor, and be looked upon as a second class, you know, relative in the family, versus someone who's bringing in money. And then as soon as you have money, or as soon as you are quote unquote doing well, or being or are successful, or hold a certain position, you know, where you work, like all of a sudden you're being included in family meetings, etc. Like it's a very, very, you know, like tough pill to swallow, because now that like you feel hurt and you feel betrayed and you're just genuinely heartbroken. So there's that aspect. Of course, there's people who have grown up in households where it like maybe it wasn't your brains or schooling and the like. It might have been your looks, or like, and then this is now like on the like when it comes to being like a girl in an African family, because a lot of value is placed on people's looks. Like let's just be real. Like, am I lying? Am I lying? It's placed on people's looks. Maybe you were bullied throughout your childhood, and even just now. Like I remember watching this TikTok where like everybody was laughing in the comments and agreeing that African families will pick your biggest insecurity and make it your nickname. So maybe like you grew up with a lot of that, you know, like just high key bullying in your family, where as soon as you left, like you got this breather. And like, okay, fine, point is like there's so many things, like there's so many other things that we have grown up with that have, you know, left us really, really heavy, that we are trying to heal from. Or yeah, that just have us kind of stunted. Like it could be stunted emotionally, like we don't know how to love, we don't know how to interact with certain people, because that wasn't shown to us. Like we had to learn from others, like we had to learn from TV. Or just, you know, like the internet and other sorts of media, to know that, oh, that there's something better out there. A lot of people have gone through that, and a lot of people have a lot of resentment that they have carried based off of how they were raised, and, you know, even just the interactions with their families, you know, as they have gotten older. So everybody has a different story to tell. And now I will talk about, you know, this thing of learning to forgive, or just moving through life with a lot of resentment. Before you even get to a stage where you can sit and, you know, like think about your thoughts and the like, some people are still living in environments that are toxic. Like, yes, right now we can laugh about things because we're out of them, especially if you're my age. Like, you're living on your own, ideally, and you think back and just laugh. Like, there's kids and people who are much younger, or even people who are age, who just don't have the means to move out yet, and they're living in environments that like really are very, very toxic. Like, I know it's us people who even have the word toxic or the word trauma in our vocabulary. But honestly speaking, so people are going through a very, very tough time. And the only way that they can get out is if they have their own money to move out and the like. Like, it's very, very sad. So there's that aspect where like you're waiting, like you're just waiting for that opportunity to move and the like. And then for some people who are sad or struggling, they might not even know the depth of what they're going through. Maybe you are just someone who is, has a lot of not really resentment, but maybe you're just a generally depressed person because you're constantly made to feel, like a failure and the like. Some people are stuck in environments that are toxic where you think and come to a point where you believe what is being told to you. Like, if you're being told every single day that you're a failure or you don't deserve this or you don't deserve that because of you not having done something, or for you not having reached a certain point, a certain level in your life, like, you start to believe these things. So since this is about mental health and the like, I don't know how I would advise someone to get to a place where they value themselves, because like sometimes you could be in a place where, if that's the messaging that is being thrown to your way every single day, like, even if you wanted to try, even if you wanted to try, the constant reminder that you're a failure just makes you give up. You internalize it, and now, like, you're literally paralyzed mentally, where you can't do anything to better yourself because you've been told countless times that you're a failure, you won't do this, or whether it might not be school, it might be how you carry yourself and your self-esteem. You're constantly being put down, and you believe the things that you say from the environment that you live in. Like, it's very, very sad. So I honestly hope that if anybody is going through that, you can get to a point where you start to, like where you just get exposed to better environments, or you hear people who, like, kind of validate you, people who enable, like, bad or destructive behavior. But sometimes you may think you're not doing much or you aren't worth much. Sometimes it just takes somebody else, helping you. It takes somebody else to point out certain wins in your life and be like, you know what, like, you're actually great, you can do better. And they're like, if you're constantly living in a mental state where you're being told that the only way you can be successful, the only way you can be happy is if you're somebody who's here. It's either you have straight A's or you don't matter. But if you get to a point where maybe you're a B student or a B star C student, or even just a C student, like, that's also an area in which somebody can be in and be okay. Of course, it limits certain opportunities that you might get, but it shouldn't make you completely, you know, feel like you are worthless. It could also be the amount of money that you make. If you aren't able to contribute or do certain things, for your family or your social groups and the like, don't feel like you're utterly useless. Whatever place that you are in life, like, hold some value in that, like, celebrate certain small wins. That might seem small to you, but at least it's a win. Like, don't think of it as nothing. So yeah, there's that initial phase that you go through where I know like there's a point where yeah, I definitely felt like I was doing absolutely nothing with my life, even though I moved out when I was 22, but at that point I had, I'd been a college dropout, but at least I'd found a job. Like, I was living on my own. I actually like, I was fortunate enough to be in full-time employment. Like, there's so many things that were working in my favor, but because I had all this messaging in my mind that I was a failure yes, okay, I actually was a failure where school was concerned, but it consumed me in such a major way that, like, it took up a lot of mental space where I honestly had very, very low self-esteem, even though there were a few wins that I could have celebrated, and those, not even just a few wins, but a lot of other things that I could have looked at and been truly grateful for and appreciated and be happy and been happy about in that moment. So yeah, so there's that phase that you go through where you have all this resentment, and then sometimes, or okay, not sometimes, but for some people, you get to a point where you're now in a place where, like, fine, like you're doing better, you can take care of yourself, and you've basically created your own space, your own environment where you want to thrive. But then you start thinking back to what you went through, and you end up having a lot of like when you now start thinking back to how you felt wronged, how this could have been better, I'm the way I am because of ABCD whatnot. There is also a phase that a lot of people go through. I'm just going to mention like that stage. I feel like this is a stage that, okay, at least the people that I've interacted with, this is a stage that they went through in their 20s, the bulk of their 20s, where you have your own life, you're starting out, you want to progress, but because you have this unresolved thing or unresolved trauma in your mind or in your psyche or just in your being, okay, that you have to heal from, it's very, very difficult to move on. You constantly want to move on, but every so often you think of something that will upset you because someone didn't say sorry, like you felt wronged. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. So no matter what you do, no matter how successful you get, if you haven't resolved something from your past that really, really upset you as a child or as a teen, or even just in the current state, because for some people, like, all you have to do to get triggered is go for a family event. Like, all you have to do is go for a family event or a family gathering, and somebody is going to trigger you. Like, you will be heavily triggered. You go home and just be like, "Oh my days," like like you'll be mentally crippled for the next 3 days, just trying to recover from what you experienced at a family gathering. So there's a lot of resentment that is held, and then you would want to say sorry. Now this is the thing with Africa. So you'd want someone to say sorry or to apologize to you. With a lot of African families, like, they don't know what sorry is. They don't want to apologize to you, and they'll be looking at you like, why do you think, you know, I owe you an apology? I did absolutely nothing wrong. And that will even upset you more, if you know what I mean. Like, it will upset you more, it will aggravate you more, and just create this even deeper, deeper resentment within you. So the title of this video, at least I'm assuming I'm going to title it Learning to Forgive. It's very, very difficult to learn to forgive and move on if you're struggling with closure. Now, I went through a whole phase. Like, I have my own things. Like I know I overshare here, but there's certain things that I'm going to keep to myself. But I did go through a phase in my 20s where I had a lot of resentment over things that I thought about in my past that I wanted someone to say sorry about. Like, I wanted somebody to say sorry, and it took me growing up. And I think sometimes these things just come with age and wisdom. But from my experience, again, you might be 45 and watching this and you still have resentment from your past. Like, it's different for everybody. But I got to a point, okay, where I really wanted to choose a different path for myself, mentally and emotionally, where I wanted to move forward. I wanted to choose peace. I wanted to move forward. And I was like, how am I going to do this? Okay. Because I need to. If you're somebody who grew up in an African environment, like a typical African environment, I'm here to tell you that 99 times out of 100, nobody is ever going to say sorry. Like you are never going to get that sorry that you want. It's never going to happen. And you have to ask yourself, like, there'll come a point, if indeed you want to move on, where you really, really sit down with yourself and accept the fact that you are never going to get a sorry. Once I realized that, you guys, that's when some of the weight began to lift off of me. So the first thing that you need to realize is that you never get a story, because you, again, like, I don't know if anybody can relate to this, where you want somebody to say sorry. Like, you're moving around wanting somebody to say sorry. A lot of people will never, like, anybody who you might have felt wrong from, they will never say sorry. The story would never come out of their mouth. Even if you sat them down and asked them, that story might not come out. In fact, it might even make things worse. So that's the first thing. expectations, when it comes to expectations with closure, you might just never get that sorry. So now what do? You want a sorry and it's never going to come. For me, what I did, okay, once I accepted that I was never going to get a sorry, I now needed to tell myself that in as much as you may not get a sorry, you now need to limit, I don't know, like certain interaction with, an environment or people who have caused this wrongdoing to you, or who trigger you or whatnot. Limit the interaction, and not only limit the interaction, but start to manage how you react to them. Because I assume for some people, like, it's a continuous thing, like the same people who wronged them in the past, like are still doing things to them that upset them every now and then, even though that they're not in that even though they're not in that immediate environment. Sometimes you have to come, you know, like you have to be at peace with the fact that this is just the way somebody is. It is out of, like, it is like them, and the way they treat you is literally out of your control. The words that come out of their mouths, the thing that they say is out of your control. How are you going to react to it? If you're somebody who used to hear things that would really, really affect you, it would affect your self esteem, or it would depress you because you are being, spoken to in a negative way. Again, that first step, you have to believe that that's not true. Get to a point where, since you can't control what people say, if they say it, don't believe that is who you are as a person. If someone is calling you something negative, like, refuse it, bind it, as my mom would say, like bind it and say no in Jesus' name. Like, that isn't me. I've worked on myself. I know who I am. Like, now I'm thinking of that song, Victory. That's my name. I know who I am. Anyways, if you know that song, yes, it's a very nice gospel song. What's it called? My Name is Victory. It's called My Name is Victory. Yes, but yes, like, believe in yourself. That's the first step. So I went through a phase, and once I got to that point, honestly, it made a world of a difference for me. It really did. And I was a far happier person, a person who was at peace. Like, I wasn't losing sleep at night thinking about being wronged every now and then, because once I got to a point where I believed that, I know who I am, Victory, that's my name. Like, someone saying something negative towards me is, like, should not affect me as much as it used to. So yeah, hopefully, I have made some sense with these couple of points that I've mentioned thus far. And now, uh, for some people, they do get lucky, okay, where they're able to have a conversation with somebody who they felt wronged by, in the past, and they get a sorry. Okay, there's two paths that one might take, because even I've chosen or decided, okay, which path am I going to embark on. Sometimes it's one thing for somebody to say sorry, but some people are actually lucky enough to get the sorry that they've always wanted and the like. And for me, I got lucky. I recently got a sorry. It was like, I was so shook, but it was like a very happy, emotional thing, to just, go through that. Like, it was truly a blessing, because at that point I had been living a far better life. I was so much at peace. And then it just came out of nowhere, where, I was able to sit down, and one party sat with me, a second party, we had a whole conversation, and without me even asking and the like, it was just, an apology that came out of nowhere, and I was shook. Okay. It was beautiful, very emotional, like, like, I even tear up every time I think about it. Sometimes, people are lucky enough to get an apology. It's a beautiful thing. Now, it's one thing for someone to say sorry, and another thing, like, like have they actually changed their ways? And that's something that you have to think about. Like, has someone actually changed their ways? If you feel like the sorry is just words, continue to safeguard yourself. Be grateful that someone is open to start a new relationship with you that is far better for the both of you and the like, but always have your guard up as well, because sometimes people just say things, in terms of words. And sometimes, like for other people, like they might say sorry because they feel you pulling away, or they feel like like you're about to cut them off or you're about to run off. That happens sometimes as well. So sometimes it's just words. Okay, so you might say thank you to the apology, but then you have to be very, very careful and be like, does this like has this person actually changed? Like just wait a bit. See if they still do things that will trigger you. And if they do, maintain that distance that you created for yourself, for your own peace of mind, if that makes sense. But if they're willing to to make that effort to do better and build a far better relationship, like that is truly a blessing. And I've experienced that recently, where like to this day, like I'm shocked, like I'm so happy that it came on its own without me forcing it. But yeah, absolutely great experience to go through. But that's yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to say with regards to expectations with closure. Now, I want to add this last segment before I close off, because in as much as our generation have grown up with all these things that we complain about and talk about, saying like honestly, like our parents were hard on us, they could have done more. I'm 31, okay? I'm 31, and from as early as like my mid 20s, like mid to late 20s, I had a lot of my friends either lose a parent or lose both parents. Like it was very, very sad. It was very like it's still sad and the like. And I'm, like I had said at the beginning of the video, I'm not qualified to give anybody advice when it comes to a parent or a guardian who was extremely abusive and needed to be in jail for what they did. No. But if the depth of your issues with your family is just things like I'd mentioned, where it's grades, or maybe you are bullied for your looks, or etc whatnot, like if that's the depth of the situation, guys, if that's the depth of the situation, once you get to my age, once you get older, okay, these things become so minuscule. If you either lose a parent or you're getting to a point where you feel or you realize that you might lose a parent, like, don't, again, I know we like we all like we all feel, okay, most of us feel wronged, or if you're watching this and you relate to this, like all of us feel wronged. But when it comes to that, okay, like you would definitely miss your parents and your guardians, and don't let something like that hold you back. Yes, try and establish a new normal for yourself, where you protect your own peace if you don't want to get triggered. But the older that you get, like if you're my age and you're watching this, or even your mid to late 20s, and you get to a point where you just accept things that the way that you're never going to get a sorry, sometimes, like be the one, like be the bigger person. I know sometimes people like hold grown-ups accountable for what they've done, but trust me, you don't want to be in a place on the other side of things where you held a lot of resentment and didn't resolve or heal or mend certain relationships because you were upset on your end, if that makes sense. If you can, you know uh try and see things. And that's what I did as I got older. I'm now in my 30s. Began to, see things from a different perspective, from their perspective, because I am now, like, I'm 31. You guys, like, when my mom was 31, like, she was married and done having kids. Okay. She was a whole married woman. She was grown, like she had the full family going through it and the like. And I'm 31. Okay. I have friends who are now like the parents. They have kids, and some have been honest with me, some have shared, like, of course, I don't have any friends who have like grown kids or kids who are like 10 and older. Like, no, like most of my friends who have kids have toddlers. And even just with toddlers, okay, they're beginning to see how hard parenthood is. Like being a parent is hard. when you get to a certain age, okay, especially after you have gone through that phase where you heal all by yourself, like where it's a one-sided situation where you've decided that you want to feel better and do better and move on. Once you get past that stage, hopefully, because you can't be filled with resentment and then force a relationship and try and mend a relationship with your parents. No, you first have to deal with, that aspect that I talked about where you, you heal on your own and the like. But once you get to a certain age, once you become a parent yourself, or like for me, like I'm not a parent yet, but I'm just older, and I've seen things as a grown up, as an adult, and I've looked at the past and what my parents could have gone through when they were my age or when they're raising kids and the like. And this is something a lot of us need to sit down and think about on a very, very serious note. Yes, quite all right. Most of us had a hard time from our perspective and our upbringing, but a lot of us don't realize that the lives that we lived are what our parents dreamed they could do for us. Some of our parents came from rough, rough backgrounds, and for them, their dream was just to have kids where they could pay for the like their dream was to have kids and be able to put a roof over their kids' heads, being able to feed their kids, being able to educate their kids, get them through school, university, even when they start the like that's what they wanted for the like they wanted like some of us even underestimate what it's like to even just live in a safe neighborhood. Okay, like for some people like live in a safe neighborhood, like for them, like they were fighting tooth and nail, trying to get jobs, trying to start businesses where they just wanted their kids to live in a safe environment, to not think about where their next meal is coming from. Like to them, that was a big deal because that's what they are coming from. Like that's their background. And for them to achieve that, it's a big deal for them. And they're so happy because they came from homes where, or not really homes, but backgrounds where it was rough. It was rough. They weren't even hugged because that's something else that a lot of people complain about, saying, you come from African families, or at least people my age. Like, very rarely do. Okay, for some of us, for some, yes, they grew up being hugged, being shown compassion and empathy and all of that, where you'd be hugged or kissed as a child, even just as a grown up. For a lot of people, that is like that was unheard of. And that's one of our complaints. But our parents, like it sounds so dumb because for them, literally, you having a roof over your head, you having food in your belly, you having clothes, you having certain small luxuries was such a big deal for them. Like it's only something that they could have dreamed of, and they've achieved that for you. So it's so from their perspective, like it's so wild to them that you would find other things to complain about and be mad at them at, if that makes sense. And that's what life is like. I remember, like I went to visit one of my friends recently, and we're just talking about how it's like okay because like she's like a new mom and the like and it's like we had the whole discussion and how like we're now beginning to understand our parents because our generation like all of us have it's mental health this mental health that for some of our parents they didn't even have the luxury to sit down and think about their mental health. They had no time to sit and even acknowledge the fact that they might be going through depression. Like they were literally in the struggle, like they were in the struggle, fighting tooth and nail, trying to build lives. And yes, our generation is is also going through a lot. We went through a pandemic recently. We've gone through so many economic crises. Okay, it's very difficult for our generation to even see a future where, like, I know there's lots of people who are like, I don't even know if I'm ever going to own a home. Like, that's like the big, topic that I always see from people my age or younger online. Like for our parents, as long as you got a degree from university, like guaranteed you're going to get a job, guaranteed you get a mortgage or something, that would help you start your like you could buy a house, like you could see yourself buying a house, whereas for us that's not possible. So we feel like we've gone through a lot, And speaking of the pandemic, like I will give that example of the pandemic. Yes, you guys, like COVID was rough. COVID was a very sad time, you guys. COVID was sad. It was sad. Every single one of us during this period went through it. Every single one of us knows someone who either lost somebody or we lost someone ourselves. It was truly, truly sad. Now, in as much as that whole period was heavy, COVID lasted 2 to 3 years. That was 2 to 3 years. Like now, like speaking of pandemics, okay, it was very sad, but it was 2 to 3 years. I am someone who was born in 1992, and I'm old enough to remember the AIDS pandemic and what it did, but too young to have really, seen it. Like, I feel like by the time I was maybe like 8, 9, or 10, we had a vaccine. But sorry, not a vaccine. There's still no vaccine for AIDS. What I meant was medication that would save someone who had HIV and keep them alive. But our parents, our parents lived through a 2 decade pandemic where people died. Like you guys, I again, like if you're younger than me, like some of you don't understand what the AIDS pandemic was and what it did. Yes, we went through, but the AIDS, like you guys, like the AIDS pandemic was bad. People died. Like people died, and it was not even a situation where it was like a 50-50 chance. Like if you got it, you were done for. It was a very, very, very sad time. 2 decades of losing people around you. Like I have heard my dad tell stories about his friend groups from his youth where like you just laugh, blah, 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 and I'll ask him like, I remember when I was young, like I'd ask like where are your friends now? He's like, oh no, like they all passed away. And it's people who died in their 30s. I know like my mom would mention certain high school friends, like I remember there was one because she had like a picture. I remember being a kid seeing a picture of her. I was like, oh, who's this lady? Oh, she's like, oh, someone I went to school with in high school. Oh, like where is she now? She died, she died from AIDS. A lot of people know and lived through that phase where like if they lived through it and survived, they still knew a lot of people who died from AIDS. You guys, like it wasn't funny. It was terrible. And back then, they I don't even think therapy was a thing. The word trauma was not even a thing the way we use trauma. Like I think I probably used trauma 50 times in this video. There was no such thing. Like they were just going through life with all of that. For some African countries, some of our parents are coming from environments, and especially okay, like if you're watching this from abroad and they're like, maybe your parents like were immigrant parents and you are first generation, whatever country that you live in. Some of our parents are coming from war-torn countries. Some of our parents went through conflict. Fine, you might still stay on the African continent, but guys, um, in as much as we love our continent and the like democracy and peace is a very, very new concept. Like even now, like we're still kind of struggling. There's like a handful of countries that are okay. Okay. But a lot of people went through a lot of war. Like if we sat down and really thought about what our parents or guardians went through. Like, I don't even think some of us in our current capacity, like if we went back and lived the lives that they lived, I don't even think a quarter of what they went through will have us still sat here like would have given up a long time ago. Like we would not have survived even a quarter of what they went through. Like they went through hell. They went through literal hell here on earth, but they still got through it. They did the best that they could. Okay, to them, they did the best that they could. And that's why they look at us like, what's wrong with you people? So when I got older and began to see things from that perspective, like it was really, really sad. And for some of you, if you're still fortunate enough to have parents and the like, of course, some people's parents didn't go through the struggle, but for some people, they did, especially like those parents who really parents or guardians like really harassed you to study and do better and the like. And this same thing of being the best. especially if you live in a different country where you're a minority. There's a reason why they want you to be the best, because they know that life is already working against you for being black or being a minority. Like they already know that it's going to be rough for you. So they're just preparing you for the world out there. But if some of you actually sit down and be like, hey, tell me a story, because for a lot of our parents, for them, that was their norm. They didn't even know that life was like, they probably had an idea that they were going through it and they're going through the struggle, but their perspective of what was bad, like, is like would be shocking to you. Like, some of you need to sit down, just, if your parents drink, like buy them a beer or a bottle of wine and just chat and be like, oh, by the way, like tell me about, what it was like growing up. Like, you will be shook. You would be shook and shocked, and even applaud them and look at them like, how are you alive? Like how did you make it this far? Like, how did you survive? Like, it will give you such a new appreciation for the type of person who is like sat in front of you or stood in front of you, or the person who raised you. Like, you want to give them a hug. Like, once you get over yourself and really see things, from their perspective, it will even help aid you further to make that decision to start to let go of certain things. So yeah, that's like that was like the second main segment that I wanted to touch on. Now that we've gotten to a part where, like, we're, hopefully chill and doing better with our parents and guardians, or just families where we came from, what do we do now as a generation? Because, like I said, some of us are the new parents and the like. Trust and believe, no matter how great you think you are, no matter how great you think you are, like what are they? Gen A, Gen Alpha. They will also sit here the way I have and do a video. Even they will find things to say, to talk about how they were raised. Even they will have some beef with you in one way. So yeah, don't sit on a high horse, on a high horse, too much, because like nobody's perfect. Of course, things can be done better, but nobody's perfect. Like, even they will come a point where they, will have something to complain about. Maybe you have learned from your past where, yes, you had a roof over your head, you had food in your belly, you had clothes on your back, you had things, and you had material stuff bought for you, but what you wanted was someone to tell you that, things are going to be okay, instead of instilling fear with you and telling you all sorts of horror stories about how big and bad the world is. Maybe you wanted someone who would hug you when you are sad, someone who would, prioritize your mental health. Like, for you, that's what's important. And you've decided that, from when I have kids, I'm going to hug them. I'm going to tell them that they're loved every single day. It is your, like for you, that's a big deal. For you, that's your win. In the future, that will be your win. For our parents, a win was having a roof over our heads. Like I have said, maybe for us, our win is we want to be emotionally available parents. They will also find something else. They will also find something else in and find a way in which you lacked. Okay, in which you lacked. It's like how for our parents, like, I feel like if you sat down and asked them about how they grew up, a lot of them got their I was about to, I'm just going to say it here, like, we're grown ups. Like, most of them got their asses beat. Like, they were battered and beaten. There was a lot of physical violence, instilled upon them to discipline them. And they have that trauma where, like, they were beaten so badly, like, they didn't beat us up. Like some of our dads, like, would get beaten by their dads with closed fists if they did something wrong. Okay, whereas maybe for some of our parents are like, like, that was terrible. Like, I'm never going to beat my child. I'm just going to use my words. And using their words, they did. Oh my god! Like, yes, they used the heck out of their words instead of their hands. But verbal violence is also a thing. And maybe for us, we're just like, like I was verbally abused by my parents. And they're like, I'm not going to do that to my kid. I'm going to love bomb them. Like trust and believe. Even our kids, like, will have something to say about us. So now that we're here and we're moving forward, yes, some things are truly, truly hurtful. They're very, very hurtful. Like you have no idea, how to move forward and the like, and you want people to be held accountable. But you really need to get to a point where you heal. And I had this discussion with my sister recently. She's like, it's one thing to want to be a better parent to your kid, but if you haven't gotten to the root cause of what caused you anguish as a child growing up, trust me, it'll be very, very difficult to be a better parent to your kid. It is sometimes for some people like it's almost impossible. Like if you still carry that resentment, and if you haven't resolved what you went through, my sister was like, you end up unintentionally projecting that onto your kid because you haven't healed from it. That has been internalized within you. Like that is all that you know. It may not be the exact same way in which your parents did it, but it will be a new variant of that. And you will just continue to spill over and do it to your kids if you don't find your own inner healing and deal with that issue and just really, really think about it. Try and find peace and move forward. So yes, that is the end of this series that I've done. For anybody who watched this, or for anybody who has watched like every single one of my chats this year, like thank you so much. I know I've used up your bundles and your time and your internet and the like. I truly appreciate the view. Thank you so much. I know like I've talked you guys' ears off, but this is something that I really wanted to do. I know it was TMI and the like, but my channel is literally called Chitta Diaries. Okay. And I really have grown as a person, you guys. Like when I began this channel in 2017, that was like over 6 years ago, I was a completely different person. I was going through a lot, and I wanted to make these videos, even just for myself, to document how I'm doing currently, as well as to help others, who might be watching this, because I'm in a far better place. Of course, there's so many other things still that I struggle with, that I'm trying to do better at, but I'm happy that I'm even in this point in my life, and I needed to do these videos. Like this is the last one, I promise. Like I'm done doing chit chat videos. Okay, not chit chat videos, like those are like I'll continue to do, but I'm talking about videos that are this deep, that talk about life, etc. Whatnot, where there's a whole bunch of TMI. Like I'm done. Like I promise. One, because like my channel has tanked this year, you guys. Like my analytics are a tragedy. Like I actually just stopped looking at them. Like I post because I feel like I really want to post these videos. Like I'm doing it for myself and for those who might truly need it. Okay. I know like when I say my channel has gone, like it has tanked. It has tanked in terms of engagement and views, but there's still those few who appreciate these videos, and I want to thank you for watching them. Like honestly, truly, thank you for watching these videos. So yeah, I'm done with the TMI videos. In October, I wanted to do a new series, you guys. It's not like too much information, me talking about myself. Like I have an idea for it, but it involves other people. And we're in September. Like I haven't contacted anybody because it involves me like speaking to professionals, and I haven't even began. So like I need to do that. So I don't know. Like no, like as at now, like no promises. But if I pull it off, like I honestly would be really, really happy. So I have like one last series that I want to do in October. It would be a talking type of series, but not me talking about my personal life and the like, but just more of like a general theme or topics, which hopefully you'll see. Stay tuned for that. But yes, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.